Hello and welcome to another Thoughts at Scale. I am really excited about this topic today and covering strategy with everyone here, and looking forward to talking a little bit more about how to build a strategic plan for your organization. If you wouldn't mind, just leave me a comment in the comments below and let me know where you're from. I'd greatly appreciate hearing where you're from. And so with that, let's just dive right in. I've only got 30 minutes. I got a lot to cover again in the short period of time. So we'll talk a little bit, overall about building a strategic blueprint and really tying that back to your vision and execution inside of your organization. They're going to cover as well. Sorry about that. Not exactly sure what's going on with my system here, but let me try it this way. So there's a couple of topics that we're going to cover today, and we're going to talk a little bit about why having a strategy is important overall for your organization. And in addition to that, we're going to talk about how having a strategy that aligns to your organizational development, really could come together for the organization as well. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how to outline your strategy so that it's actionable and measurable and aligned to your vision inside the organization. So these are the things that we're going to cover today. And I really look forward to covering this topic with everyone that's here. In addition to that, I wanted to also mention just a little bit about myself. So I have 3 decades of experience in scaling companies. I'm certified in change management and Lean Six Sigma, and then also have a PhD in organizational management. For anybody that's not, joined one of these before, I kind of, typically run through this as well. And one of the things that I've seen personally as I go through and I meet with organizations, one of the questions that I typically ask an organization is, do you have a vision? The vision, of course, is the North Star. Where are you trying to get to at some point in the future? And as I go through that, I also tie it back to their strategy as well. And so when I hear the vision, oftentimes I'm looking for key pieces that would tell you specifically exactly what this organization is trying to achieve overall. And then in addition to that, having the strategy is the piece of execution, right? So what are you doing to build some form of a plan that ties together with a lot of background in it that tells you a little bit about competitors, looks at your strengths and weaknesses inside the organization, how many organizations, have that or don't have it. And less than 30% of the organizations that I've surveyed have a strategy in place. And then they talk about this fuzziness or this lack of focus with regards to the vision. And a lot of that comes from the fact that you haven't sort of really refined the vision to a point that it gives you that true North Star. Could be one example. The second one, could be that also the organization, may be missing these strategic components as well. And one of the things that I wanted to mention here is that, whenever we look at the amount of startups that fail in life sciences, one of the things that oftentimes I hear is that, the organization ran out of money, or the science caused the challenges that caused the company to fail. In reality, if you look at that, what you oftentimes find is that, the leaders in the organization didn't sort of look out in advance to try and see, what sort of obstacles might be coming. And so those are some of the things that we're going to cover, today as we talk about strategy as well. And how do you build one for your organization that really focuses in on the vision that you're trying to get to. I do want to go through some textbook examples and things like that along the way. And so I will go through, through those, as we talk about them here. I did want to bring up Michael Porter, somebody who focuses a lot on strategy from an overall, setting the vision more or less for strategy, if you will. His comment is overall, its strategy rests on unique activities. Competitive strategy is about being different. It means deliberately choosing a different set of activities to deliver a unique mix of value. One of the examples that I would kind of come back to as well, that was a strategic choice for the organization, is Southwest Airlines. So Southwest Airlines has only 737s. They only fly 737s. That is a strategic choice that aligns with their overall vision. Their overall vision is to make travel affordable. It's something that that they set out overall for their organization. Now, in that same vision, what they did was they said, look, we are unlike other companies. We're going to select one airplane that allows us the ability to have pilots that are trained only on one airplane. It allows them greater switching capability. So if they have problems with their airplane, they can switch one out for the other. In addition to that, their maintenance crews only have to be trained on 737s as well. And so, in terms of the way that they structured the company, the leaders of that company made a strategic choice to say, hey, look, we are going to use this limiting factor to our advantage. It's going to limit the amount of costs that we have in parts. It's going to limit the amount of training that we have to do and amount of pilots we have to, employ that know lots of different aircraft, et cetera. And there are many, many stories inside of Southwest Airlines that you could sort of pick apart and say that their way of delivering value, the way that they decided that they were going to deliver value, was by having this limiting factor in place. And that then at the end of the day, provided them that greater advantage, as an organization. In addition to that, Richard Rummelt has said that just having a strategy is a strategy. One of the things that I mentioned at the opening is this idea that a lot of organizations, less than 30% of the organizations that I have surveyed have a strategy in place in life sciences. And so amazingly enough, from my standpoint, I've been kind of surprised at the fact that, whenever you work with larger organizations, so I've worked with General Electric, I've worked with Becton Dickinson, I've worked with Roche as a direct employee. And in that time frame, they not only would set kind of the larger corporate strategy, the question oftentimes for leaders was, okay, so what are you doing? What specifically are you going to do with this strategy? And how does what you're doing in your organization align to the overall vision of the company, and then also the overarching strategy for the organization? And so, this idea of having a strategy, oftentimes was, at least, something that most senior leaders inside of these organizations, had to deal with as well. In addition to that, there's an overall progress that I see inside of organizations. So let's start with the vision at the very top of this slide, where the targeted wooden block is. And, if you have a very clear, frequently communicated vision that's shared by everyone, that is an important sort of North Star for everybody to aim for. In addition to that, the strategy sort of takes a look at what is our competitive landscape, where are we strong, where do we have weaknesses, how do we sort of leverage those things, then to build the organization towards this North Star. Then behind that, there are three other components, right? So you need to be taking daily actions towards the goal that you set out. In addition to having the goals, then you would have metrics that support that. And that's some of the things that we're going to talk about as we talk about developing the strategy for an organization. As we get started looking at the strategy components, the first place to start is defining your product. What is your product, and who is your overall target customer? Who is it that you're going after inside of the market? What does that market look like? And then are there personas under that? So some organizations, as I think about especially diagnostics organizations as an example, you will have personas oftentimes because you might have different levels of equipment that are trying to meet different organizations that are out there. You might have equipment that's going to go into a doctor's office, a point of care instrument of some type. In addition to that, you might have more sophisticated lab equipment that is on a bench inside of a lab. And then at the highest level, you might have laboratory automation. And so, whether it's a Cobas, on the Roche side, or a Keystra on the Becton Dickinson side, you could say that, you have, these long lines of automation equipment. And so those elements of the different personas in the market need to be understood at a strategic level. And so taking your team and saying, hey, look, we're going to get in a room, we're going to talk about our products, we're going to talk about the markets, and specifically where in the markets our product is a fit. And then are there personas that come behind, each one of these as well. The next component of a strategy is looking at your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I tried to provide examples on this slide to really, demonstrate a little bit of the element of what you need to really dig deep into. This isn't just sort of a quick exercise where you're in, just a couple of minutes writing down, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Instead, you need to go deep. You need to understand, in terms of your organization, for strengths, as an example, what is it that makes your organization unique? Are there specific advantages that you have in the market, in the science that you're delivering, in the technology that you're delivering, that then will help your overall clients? Are there maybe skills that your organization has that other organizations in your market don't have? Again, that's another, key strength. There could be selling points for your instrumentation. So, making sure that your instrumentation, overall is well positioned in front of the customer could be an inherent strength that, might be difficult for other organizations to overcome. The geography that you sell into also could be an example of a strategic strength, from the standpoint of, let's say that you isolate yourself to a portion of the world, or maybe you're global and everybody's not. There are different ways that this could play into your advantage. And one of the examples, again, that I would use is Walmart versus Kmart. One of the things that Kmart decided back before they went bankrupt was this idea that they wanted to be global. They wanted to expand and be a global organization. Having global markets was something that they saw as something that they wanted to grow towards. Walmart, on the other hand, invested in building a larger distribution network, strong customer base similar to Kmart's, in a local area, and having specific geographies that they focused in on. They weren't worried about, sort of this larger expansion, and having that sort of focus in your organization could play out just similar to the way it did between Walmart and Kmart. Organizations that are looking to expand too soon and don't have the ability to build the customer base and get the reach that they need is one of those examples that, geography definitely could be an advantage for your organization. In terms of opportunities, so let's talk about the opportunities on the left side before I hop over to the right side, which is more of the, sort of orange and red segments of the chart here. So opportunities, we could say, anything that has to do with, maybe you're working on improvements in your product, and that's an advantage. You're working on alliances. Maybe an alliance between you and another company builds a stronger capability for your overall organization. Again, global expansion could be something that's an opportunity for your organization. And one of the things that I've oftentimes seen, either both with drugs as well as with medical devices, is that you oftentimes, have a decision to make in terms of where you're going to launch first. And that launch first decision is oftentimes driven by regulatory considerations, regional approvals, and things like that, and having the ability to run trials and things in a geography. And so again, that global expansion could be an opportunity, but also it could be a big distraction for your organization. And so this is one where, it could be both an opportunity as well as a threat. So I would, just be kind of, conscious in terms of, making that decision for global expansion. Technology advancements, clearly can be an overall opportunity for organizations. And one of the things in pulling together this slide that kept running through my head was all of the CAR type therapies. So you have NK therapies and you have CAR T therapies that a lot of organizations are currently working on. And I sort of see a lot of discussion about the technological or scientific advancements, being one of the key things that people are talking about, but they talk about it in their own silo. And I would caution anybody that looks at this as an opportunity to also strongly consider what is your competition talking about, because this is a clear opportunity to talk about that as well. Sustainability is a great big thing, as well right now. How do we sort of do things in a sustainable way is an opportunity for a lot of organizations. And I also see that digital transformation is an opportunity to have a deeper discussion as well. Under weaknesses, you could talk about, again, your science or technology. Are there gaps that you see in the science or technology that you have where you need to either, focus and close those gaps, or is it something that you're going to have to maintain and manage throughout time? Having that awareness, again, this is all about not necessarily having a way to close each and everything. This is more about really focusing as an organization on your weaknesses and knowing what they are, and also examining kind of the broader landscape that's out there and knowing what your competitors' weaknesses are as well. Supply chain, could be a weakness for an organization, just to kind of skip ahead a little bit. And, also many of us are dealing with financial constraints. I see a lot of this, especially in our, in our current environment, where we're dealing with an awful lot of financial constraints throughout organizations. Under threats, you could, again, take a look at competitive pressure. So, again, if I go back to, some of the therapies that are being developed, some of the diagnostics that are being developed right now, there are a lot of players that you see in the startup world that are focused on exactly the same thing at this point in time. And so understanding what that competitive pressure is somebody ahead or behind you currently, where are they at in the overall development, and taking a look at those threats and really understanding them is really important. Market dynamics, I wanted to mention under this one, just the fact that I think it was like January, February this year, there were people that were telling me that there was going to be a larger shift in our economy, that they felt that there was, we were getting to a point where either we were going to see the recession arrive, or we were going to see a point where the economy sort of started to turn. And those market dynamics and understanding and at least estimating what you believe, what does your organization believe foundationally is going to happen in your specific market, that's either going to benefit your organization or cause an additional, sort of strain on the organization. And to that same point, I've seen many organizations say, hey, look, we're going to slow maybe some of our development. We're going to try and burn cash slower to make it through the time period that we're currently in, so that hopefully whenever we come out on the other side, we can, again, take advantage of that. On the other side, I've seen other organizations say, hey, look, we're going to invest, heavily, into certain areas of our organization to speed things up. And so again, understanding market dynamics is something critical for each and every organization. Some of the other things in here you see, regulatory, data security, and your approach. And so I have approach here twice, once under strengths and then, once under threats. And the key reason why is that your specific approach in a market, could be something that is either a strength for your organization or it could be a risk if you don't fully understand it. How are you approaching thinking about ways that you're getting, in the healthcare industry? How are you thinking through reimbursement? How are you thinking through how patients pay, or how the device or drug that you have is delivered? That approach is absolutely critical to have as a part of your overall strategy and thinking about that. I mentioned examining some of these things a little deeper, and I just wanted to kind of pull this together a little bit again as an example for people that might be struggling a little bit with, okay, so how do I actually go do some of this? And so for your organization, list your obvious strengths. What obvious strengths come out of the exercise that we just went through? What is obvious to the outside, and what are some of the things that maybe other people can't see? It's just not so obvious to them, but it is a definite strength for your organization. You also want to do the same thing as well with weaknesses. So you want to, not just examine the strengths. I just put this here as an example, but you want to think through what gives you an edge and what is a risk for your organization. Secondarily, you want to do the same thing with regards to your competitors. You want to list your competitors and what are their strengths? What is obvious to you on the outside? And what are some of the things that maybe you don't know that you really want to try and understand in terms of the competition that's out there? And what overall will give you an edge against the specific, competitor? And then lastly, how would you use your strengths and weaknesses to your advantage? That's what this exercise is all about, is building a plan, that will overall help you do that. So once you outline these things, again, as a leadership team, you've looked deeper into the organization to try and understand a little bit better exactly what's going on in the organization. Next, you want to go one layer deeper into strategic objectives. So this is taking some of the things from the last page that I just showed you, where you've done an actual exercise and dove a little bit deeper in terms of the organization. Now you're going to look at financial, customer, internal, and learning elements that overall should be strategic objectives that will help the organization in the future. And so let's just say, you're building an overall strategy that you want to have, time horizons of somewhere between 3 and 6 months, and then 6 months to a year. And then, beyond that, maybe you go to 18 months total at the furthest reach out. And with that focus, you want to say, okay, so these are the things that we're going to focus on at each layer inside of the organization to try and develop an overall map that looks at how do we deliver, these elements. And then lastly, I just wanted to also mention that as you pull back one more layer now, so you've got the elements of financial, customer, internal, and learning as strategic objectives. Now you want to lay out across each one of these horizontal axes. You want to look at what are the measurements that we have for each of these elements. How would you know whether or not if they're on track or off track? What are the numbers that you're going to measure there? The next one would be the targets. What would we be targeting in the future to be able to deliver that thing? And then what specific thing are we going to go do? What initiative are we going to have that then supports this direction for our organization? So as we conclude here today, I just wanted to mention one last thing. So for anybody that hasn't gone to thescalingmethod.com/thoughts at scale and subscribed, I do send out these slides. So I send out to the mailing list that's there. I send out the slides and the notes that I have for the presentations that I give on a weekly basis. And so I would encourage anybody to go ahead and subscribe there. So it's thescalingmethod.com/thoughts at scale. So it's spelled out thoughts at scale. And the last thing I would mention, as well, is that if you do want to go deeper, if your organization is one where you need to have an additional conversation about how do we put some of these things into action, the offer is still there as well. And you can, find lots of ways to get in touch with me at 5280lsc.com. That's my website, 5280lsc.com. Or you can go to thescalingmethod.com. There's that page, details a little bit more in terms of what the full scaling method is, how it outlines the 6 pillars and how we take the vision, people, process, and strategy inside of an organization and make it more actionable. So with that, I just wanted to say thanks a lot for joining this week. And hopefully this has been a benefit to you. And I look forward to hearing more about the things that you've done with the things that we talked about. Thanks a lot.